Hey, hope you're doing well. Andy here from Drive Steady, and in this video I'm reviewing the Mercedes AMG EQS. So listen up, when you think of AMG, things that come to mind are loud bellowing exhaust, or big displacement V8 engines. But times are changing, and I'm standing next to the first all-electric AMG production car. I can't begin to say how big a deal this is for a brand that has as much history building high horsepower cars around the internal combustion engine as Mercedes AMG does. So let's see what they've done on the first attempt in this review of the Mercedes AMG EQS. All right, so let's get started with a huge thank you to Keys Mercedes for allowing me to review this AMG EQS today. This car just came out and they're kind of hard to come by, but this is available for sale as of the recording of this video. So if you're interested, I've left their information in the description below. Please give them a call if you want this car or any other Mercedes product. Now let's talk about the exterior design, and Mercedes AMG have tinkered with it to give it some more sporty feel. Starting off with a Pan America grille up front. This is synonymous with all AMG cars. It actually looks much better than what you get in the regular EQS, at least in my opinion. And then you've got the side rocker panels, which are subtle but give it an aggressive look. And then out back you have a larger spoiler and a more aggressive rear diffuser. But the item that stands out and is the most unique on this AMG model car are these wheels. These are 22-inch wheels, and I'll give you more details about them here in a second. But overall, I think there could have been some more effort put into differentiating the AMG car from the regular one. I mean, you really have to look close, and it's almost indistinguishable from an EQS 580 with the AMG package. Now, beyond just the differentiating topic, on its own merits, I think the EQS is a rather good-looking car. All right, so now let me give you the details on these wheels. And lately Mercedes has been putting out some really unique looking wheels with a lot of presence that strike a balance between sportiness and the classical Mercedes concept. Now, these are 22-inch wheels. These are optional. They're black with a silver outer rim, and it's such a cool looking wheel. I mean, Mercedes has done such a fantastic job with this thing to match the character of the AMG EQS and to make it stand out from the regular EQS. Now, they're 22 inches on all four corners and are a $1,500 option. Now, let's move to the rest of this and let's talk about what really makes this an AMG car, some of the suspension items. So this has the AMG Ride Control Plus, which means it has adaptive dampers and rides on an air suspension. So this thing does have the ability to raise and lower itself based off of the driving conditions that you're in. And on top of that, AMG has tweaked with the regular EQS suspension by giving this one upgraded bushings, bearings, and mounts, and a specific AMG underpinning, which was based off of the AMG GT 4-door coupe. Now, this car does also have a standard rear axle steer, which can rotate up to 9 degrees, giving a car with this long of a wheelbase a better turning radius. And now let's talk about the brakes, because again, AMG and it needs stopping power. So you've got 15.4-inch rotors with 6 pistons up front and a single floating piston in the rear. The calipers are painted in red and they have the AMG lettering on them, even though you can't see them through these multi-spoke wheels. All right, so normally I would have the hood popped open and talk to you about the engine, but I can't do that because obviously electric car, and number two, Mercedes doesn't allow you to open the hoods on these EQS models. The only thing you've got is a little compartment over there on the passenger side that allows you to put in some washer fluid. But anyway, now let's talk about the battery and the horsepower figures. So this has a 107.8 kilowatt battery. You've got two motors, one up front, one in the rear, and it combines for an output of 649 horsepower and 700 pounds-feet of torque. Now, Mercedes doesn't stop here. If you put this car in race start mode, which is essentially launch control, you get 100 additional horsepower and 50 pounds-feet of torque more than what you would get without it being in launch control. So combined max output, 751 horsepower, 752 pounds-feet of torque. Now this is quite a substantial amount of horsepower considering that this is a big luxury sedan, and it's got a single-speed transmission, putting power down to all four wheels. Now putting power down to all four wheels, this is an AMG car, so it is tuned as a rear wheel bias. It does weigh about 5,900 pounds, so almost 3 tons. This thing weighs almost as much as a G-Wagon does, so it's quite heavy, but still impressive as far as performance numbers. All of this equates to a 0 to 60 time of 3.4 seconds. So this is not Tesla Plaid fast, but it is extremely fast considering what it is and the weight. Now, what about the range? So Mercedes has not published the range for the AMG model, but I anticipate it'll be a little bit less than the normal non-AMG cars for three reasons. Number one, the battery has more juice. Number two, these wheels are less aerodynamically efficient. And number three, the overall drag coefficient of this car is a little higher compared to the normal EQS 580. So that one has a 0.20 drag coefficient, which is extra slippery. This is 0.23, so it's a little less. I anticipate it'll get between 300 and 325 miles on a full charge. All right, so we just talked about the battery. Now let's talk about charging it. So the compartment is over here on the passenger side. It's a standard charging outlet, and this does run in a 200 kilowatt per hour charging capability, which means you can DC fast charge it at any compatible DC fast charging station wherever you live. Now, as far as how much range can I get, Mercedes AMG says you can replenish about 190 miles of range in roughly 20 minutes charging time, which is actually really good if you're in a pinch and you just got to get going and trying to maximize your time there. But if you were to go from basically 10 to a full charge 100%, it's roughly around 15 hours if you're non-fast charging. Now, beyond that, Mercedes does have their Mercedes Me charging network, and it basically allows you to customize your trips and tells you where the nearest charging station is if you're in a pinch and things like that. So it is quite sophisticated, and they do try to get rid of as much range anxiety with these electric cars as possible. So now let me move you around to the back and show you the trunk, cargo space, and then we'll move to the interior. Okay, so we made it to the rear end, and now let's talk about cargo space. And the EQS has an advantage over, say, an S-Class. Now, the reason that is because the EQS has a pass-through or a lift-back style trunk opening. And the way you open the trunk, there's a button on the key, there's a button on the interior, then there's the comfort access by pushing this Mercedes logo, and obviously there's a kicking motion underneath the license plate. So once you open this trunk, you will notice that there is a substantial amount of room. To be exact, 22 cubic feet of space when the seats are up. Now this provides 11 more cubic feet of space compared to a S-Class. Now it doesn't stop there because the EQS has the ability to fold down its rear seats, which the S-Class does not. And when you have the rear seats folded down, 63 cubic feet of space, which basically rivals a lot of SUVs out there. So this EQS has a substantial amount of room for you to put in your stuff. If you're going on a weekend getaway, even if you've got the seats folded up, this thing has plenty of room for you to travel and take your things along with you, even on a day-to-day basis if you're somebody who carries around a lot of stuff with you. Now, one last thing before moving on to the interior, and it's related to folding down the rear seat. So if you're somebody my height, 5'10", 5'11", it's going to be a little bit of a stretch to do it from back here, so you have to go around to the side. Just something to point out. As far as closing the trunk, it is electronic closing via a button here. You push that, closes the trunk, ultra convenient. Now let's go into the inside and I'll show you what it's like in there. All right, so now the interior of the AMG EQS, starting off with the front portion here, then we'll move to the rear seats. But the front area is actually really nice. There's a lot of similarities here between an S-Class and also enough to differentiate it from an S-Class. And the biggest thing is the hyper screen, and it's standard here on the EQS AMG model or AMG EQS model. But let me get into some of the details here. So the seat is very comfortable. The seat cushioning is great, very similar to an S-Class. It does have infinite levels of adjustability, forwards, backwards, thigh support, bolstering. Now, one thing I am going to complain about is there is no physical button to expand the bolsters. I have to go into the infotainment system, and I'm not really a big fan of that because seat adjustment is just something I like to have a physical toggle for. There's some on the door, but it doesn't include anything for the bolsters. Now, beyond that, the steering wheel is a AMG unique steering wheel. You cannot get this in a lower EQS model, even if you option in the AMG package. So this is a flat bottom. It does have the AMG drive control units, which are extremely helpful and convenient because you can toggle through multiple settings. You don't have to go fiddling with the infotainment system. So this is a really cool and convenient feature. You do have paddle shifters, but why in a single speed transmission car? Because these paddle shifters control the brake regen. So up is a stronger brake regen, down less brake regen. Now, up in front of me, the hyper screen. Let's talk about this for a second. So there are 3 screens. There are 2 12-inch screens. There's one in the front as a gauge cluster, one for the passenger, and then the one in the center is a 17.7-inch screen. It's absolutely massive. It is definitely the highlight of the interior. When you sit in an EQS model with a hyper screen, it is definitely going to take you back. You're like, oh wow, this is so cool looking. These extra screens and your involvement and the experience with an EQS is definitely heightened, and it is a differentiating factor from an S-Class, hands down. Now, as far as the infotainment system and the gauges and the passenger side, the gauges are actually very similar to what you see in an EQS and similar to what you get in a Mercedes S-Class. The only difference is that this does have the electronic features, so the range and the battery capacity and all that stuff. Now, switching over onto the infotainment system, this is the latest MBUX, and I really like MBUX. I think the one from BMW iDrive and MBUX are the best infotainment systems as far as ease of use, ease of adaptability once you're first getting used to it, and then just day-to-day use. It has a lot of shortcut menus, a lot of things right there at your fingertips, and as an additional layer of conveniency, you can do it all from the steering wheel. So I don't have any complaints or any downsides to the MBUX system. I actually like it a lot. Then you come over to the passenger side, and the passenger has the ability to do basically all of the things that a driver would be able to do here on the center screen. So this is an ultra convenient thing if you've got a co-pilot, if you need to enter in a navigation location, or if you need to search something. Your co-pilot has all the same capabilities out in front of them. They don't have to be inconvened and go over a little bit to the left and use the bigger screens. They can use it all in front of them, and it's just a really cool feature. And beyond that, not only separately for the autopilot, for the co-pilot, if you're doing something here, that side is almost completely independent and can look up things separately on that screen. So that's also an added benefit. Now, rounding off the front end here, well, 2 things. First thing, storage. So there's a lot of storage in the EQS. There's this humongous open compartment down here, and you can store a lot of stuff. The map pockets on the door panels are actually very good as well. Glove compartment, and this center storage section has 2 USB Type-C outlets, and you have 2 additional USB Type-C outlets in the cup holder and a wireless charging station. Now, the one thing that I think the EQS falls short on is some of the materials, and it's specific right here in the center compartment section and on the dash and on the upper part of the door panels. Mercedes calls this Neotex or something along those lines, and it's not a real leather. It doesn't look like a real leather, and it definitely doesn't feel like leather. It's a different type of material, and it almost, in my opinion, cheapens the look of the interior. Everything else looks great. It looks very similar to an S-Class. and the quality of some of the things that you're touching is also very good. But this Neotex thing kind of doesn't rub me the right way. I almost feel like it doesn't belong in the most expensive EQS, and it's the same in the normal EQS, and it carries on in here. But that's my real only complaint about the EQS's interior, is this quality, this little textured material. But otherwise, it's a fantastic place to be. Oh, one other thing, you do have a standard panoramic sunroof in this AMG EQS model. But yeah, going back, it's a great interior, very comfortable, very spacious, very S-Class-like if that's what you're looking for. So now let me take you to the back seats and talk to you about what it's like over there. All right, so now the interior, and let's get started off with legroom and seating position. As far as the seating position, I am sitting rather high. I feel like I'm sitting rather high, and I don't have the ability to adjust the seats either forward or backward or lower. But my hair is definitely touching the ceiling. So if you're somebody a little taller than I am, as I said, I'm 5'10", 5'11", you may have some issues sitting back here. As far as legroom goes, no issues, plenty of legroom. I am sitting behind myself. I'm able to extend my legs. And even though this car has less legroom than the traditional S-Class, there's no concerns, as you can see here. Some of the comforts or the creature conveniences that I've got here: heated seats back here, and also a separate climate control zone for each rear passenger. So this car has a 4-zone climate control system. I can control that using this center section here, LCD display with these buttons. Beyond that, I've got 2 USB Type-C outlets, which is extremely important because nowadays everybody's got a connected device. And beyond that, I've got a center storage area here that has a pen holder and 2 cup holders. So that's pretty much it. It's mostly a no-frills interior. Oh, one thing I forgot again. The panoramic roof extends back here, and it's always nice to look out of as a passenger and adds that extra flair and open-aired feeling for a passenger as well. So again, no major excitement, no frills. It's pretty much as I expected for a car in this price range. It is a very comfortable interior. And like I said, overall, it's a really nice place to be, both for the driver and all the other passengers. The only thing I would kind of change is this Neotex material. Otherwise, it's a fantastic place to be. High quality, nice visuals. The hyperscreen is fantastic. The standard panoramic sunroof, the overall comfort and conveniences inside of this car. The seats are very comfortable. So it's a really nice place to be. Now let's move to the driving portion of the review and see the differences between this AMG EQS and the EQS 580 I drove a couple months ago. All right, so now the driving portion of the AMG EQS review. And as always, the key, I really like what Mercedes is doing with their keys. This one has the AMG lettering on there, and it has a nice feel to it, nice look to it. The only thing I would change is this back is plastic. It would be nice if it had the rest of this metal material on the back as well. Now, as far as visibility goes, the visibility is absolutely fantastic. The window does feel a little short up here, the windshield, but I don't have any issues seeing out of it. The windows over here on the over my shoulders are absolutely amazing. The blind spot monitoring is also very good, no issues there. Out the back, the window is a little smaller back there as well, but again, no issues. I do have front and rear cameras, and they turn on automatically depending on which direction you're going. So if you're reversing, the back camera will turn on. If you're moving forward, automatically the front camera will turn on. So no safety feature shortage in the EQS. As far as the price, I have the window sticker here, and again, rarely I get access to this thing. So base price $147,500, so $147,500, and after options $152,660, so a little over $5,000 in options on this one. The wheels, I mentioned $1,500, I was incorrect, so it's $1,850 for the wheels, and it's got some other things in here as well. One interesting thing it has is laminated safety glass. So this is actually a thicker glass compared to what you would get as standard, and it's supposed to make it quieter in here. Now let's go ahead and go for a drive. The car is actually on. The beauty of electric cars, you don't even notice if they're on or off, but let's go for a drive. So Now it says ready to drive, and the Mercedes continues their tradition with the stock up here. Other cars you just kind of either swipe up and down with the Tesla, but this one, it's a traditional Mercedes stock. So if you're used to this thing, you'll be familiar with the driving process of the AMG EQS. So let's get going, and I'm in comfort mode. And one of the things I was reminded as I drive this EQS is it is so quiet in here. You can barely even hear the battery spool up as you're moving along. If you're having a conversation, you can't hear anything. It's really, really quiet in here, more so than the S-Class. But one thing I am going to do, I'm excited to try, is the launch control. So I'm just going to try it really quickly. Stop, foot on the brake, gas. Oh my gosh, what is this thing doing? Oh my God, holy crap. Wow. What a fun experience. Wow, that really took off. And to kind of describe that launch sequence, I had my foot on the brake and the gas mashed to the floor, and it almost like it was a launch initiation sequence. It started making these whoosh, these noises from the infotainment system, and I felt like my seat was kind of shaking, almost like a roller coaster ride. Wow, that was really interesting and something you don't really get in the Tesla. And then the gauge cluster kind of started saying race engaged and all this cool stuff, and then the actual graphics when this thing is driving this super or not the Super Sport, the Sport Plus gauge setting is actually really cool on how it starts reading out the horsepower and torque figures that you're using. Actually really, really cool. But as far as the speed, it is immensely fast. I mean, this thing really takes off. Now, I'm not going to use launch control. Let's just go. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. It is properly fast. Even without the launch control, this thing gets up and goes really well. Okay, now let me go ahead and put it back into comfort mode. And just really quickly skimming over the sportiness of this car. I'm not going to kid anybody out there. This isn't really like some sports car, even though it has an AMG badge on it. It's a almost 6,000 pound car. It does feel very heavy. You feel all of that 6,000 pounds, or roughly 6,000 pounds. It does feel very bellowy. There's some body motions that you get when you're turning around, when you're using immediate steering inputs, but the steering is good. It is pretty accurate. There is no deadness in the center of the steering wheel, and it basically does what you tell it to do. It's got weight playing against it. So let's put that aside for a second, and let's talk about the rest of this as an EV car. One of the things I noticed is if you're one pedal driving, I am in normal recuperation mode. It is rather not aggressive. To put it, for the lack of a better term. If you are a one pedal driver, the normal recuperation doesn't seem adequate. I felt it was different in the Tesla. When you put it in strong recuperation, it's almost way too aggressive. I think Mercedes has an opportunity here to tune the one pedal driving capabilities of this car, because okay, here we go. So I'm going to let go, and I'm literally being moved forward, even though I know that it's going to do that recuperation. The nice thing about this is you can turn off recuperation altogether, and it feels like driving a regular gas-powered car. That I like a lot. Now, beyond that, the suspension and the comfort. This is an extremely comfortable car. I feel like I don't remember the EQS, the regular 580, being this comfortable. I wonder if the AMG tuning provides a wider bandwidth between comfort and Sport Plus and makes this a little bit more comfortable or smoother riding in the comfort mode, which I'm in right now. But this is an extremely comfortable car. The seat is great. Let me turn on my massaging seats. So the massaging seats are very good. Let me see, where is it? Comfort. All right, relaxing massage. And as I'm going here doing this review, the seat is pushing up against me. I can feel the thing kind of giving me a massage. So this feels very luxurious and prestigious in this driver's seat of the EQS. And then at the same time, I can do this and just fly. And it doesn't lose a lot of its grunt as you're going higher into the mile per hour. Your speed keeps climbing, so it does feel that same amount of pull even as you're going in at a higher rate of speed. So yeah, what is this car? I think this is just the ultimate give me the most expensive electric car you can get type of experience, and they just try and AMG it with turning up the juice in the batteries, but otherwise this isn't really some sporty feeling car, and it kind of plays against itself for being an electric car, because let's say, for example, even in an S63, you've got the big V8 motor and it's got the bellowing exhaust, and it kind of gives you that experience. But this, you don't have that. This does have the sound that you can toggle through, and it sounds somewhat like rocket thrusters as you're pressing on the gas and in the powerful setting. But in the normal setting, it makes no sound. There is some battery spool, for the lack of a better term, but that's pretty much all you're gonna get. So this is actually, I think this is just a status car. Give me the most expensive electric car you can get, and it's plenty fast in a straight line, extremely fast actually. And the selling points, I think, are it's extremely comfortable, environmentally friendly. It does have the hyper screen, so great technology, good features, panoramic roof, massaging seats as standard, heated seats, all the creature comforts that you would expect in a car worth $150,000. So you are getting a whole bunch of stuff in here. It just depends on what you're really looking for. Do you want the electric experience or the gas-powered experience? So that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram at DriveSteady, and I will try and get back to you as quickly as I can. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.